and the wood is alder for the legs, and it's pine. Pine's cheap, so if you just go to the lumber yard, I find 2x12s out of some sort of eastern pine, I think, and it makes a great seat. So I started making these three-legged because they always balance, and my wife wanted me to make four-legged, so I did. And they're mainly for kids. Kids can sit around and do their coloring on it. They like sitting on these, and it's a lot of fun to make because you get the spindle work and you get the faceplate work. And then you get a wedged joinery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting the curves and pounding in the wedges. I won't be gluing anything, so that way whoever gets it, I'll just give it to Jamie and you can give it to whoever. You can take it apart, remount it, finish it really nice, and then glue it back together, and I'll show you how to do that. And also at the end talk to you about leveling it. It's really easy to level it. So I'll pass this around, and it will come apart. If you just twist the legs, they'll come out. The way the legs are joined. The legs are joined with a wedge tenon. So what I have here is a leg with the piece of cutout like it was a seat, and I just pounded a wedge in there and then cut it out with my bandsaw to show you how it fits together. And to take it apart requires destroying it, so it's a permanent joint. And also, if you don't want the Windsor style, which is this style here, I just made 4 other styles of leg, the bamboo style, and just kind of some methods that don't require as much detail, especially if you're just starting out and kind of figuring out what you want to make. You can make these, get used to it, and then let your imagination run wild. These are 12-inch legs, so they're a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 by 12 inches long, because I found it's a nice height for kids, for sitting down, for little kids. I have made chair height is about 19 inches, and on a mini that requires a 2-piece leg, which is easy. You just mortise and tenon the leg and make it in 2 pieces. And so you can make them all the way up to 26, 30 inches if you want. You just need a bigger leg. To duplicate everything, I use a story stick, which is, this is the huge one here. On my side, I made it just like it looks to me. And what I found is that that's not how it's going to look to you. So I had to do it in reverse. So this story stick is actually in reverse for you guys to see. But you'll see when I mark and cut, it's relatively easy to duplicate spindles. I'm only going to duplicate 2 because watching paint dry and me doing 4 spindles is about the same thing. So I've got 2 already turned, and I'll turn 2 more just like it. And my duplication is using the story stick. So I'll pass that around. So how I start with a piece of, in this case, pine. It's about 11 7/8. I'm sorry, 9 7/8, because if it hits 10 inches, I'm going to have some problems on this thing. It won't turn. So about 9 3/4 to 9 7/8, and where I cut it on the bandsaw, I've got it marked out. So I take a pencil compass, and on the very center, when that story stick comes around, you'll see on the back side that I've got some dimensions marked, and 3 3/4 is marked. That gives me a 7.5 inch circle. So the reason for that is when I go around, this is going to be where my legs are going to be in the seat. So this line here goes along my grain line. What I wanted was 4 seat holes And in order to get that, I need to go 45 degrees from my grain line. So I had to get my math hat back on. And remember math, and it's actually is easier than I thought it would be. So I go 45 degrees, and I make a mark. I take a straight edge, I go through the center and my mark. So that gives me a leg hole here and a leg hole here. Well, now how do I get 90 degrees? So it's pretty easy if you remember your geometry, and you remember that you can take a compass, you can spread it a little bit, put it on that intersection, go like that. Put it on that intersection and go like that. Take a straight edge and go like that. I know, it took me quite a while to figure that out and remember it. But now, when my legs go in, they're along the grain line. So pretty close along the grain line. This one might be easier to see. So, yeah, I just think it looks nicer. Does it really matter on something like this for strength? Nah, probably not. But it looks nicer. So it's symmetrical. It's kind of like getting on your bowl, getting the grain lines just right in there. So for me, that's what this became. So now, how do I drill it? Once again, pretty easy. I use a drill and a 3/4 inch spade bit. This is one of those spade bits from, it's from Lowe's, and it's just got the little auger screw head.
Not spade.
A what?
Auger bit, not spade bit.
Yes. And yeah, spade's flat, ain't it? Okay, this is a curved spade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp my seat, and this is how I make them at home. So I'm going to clamp my seat down to my table, and I've got this, which is just a sliding bevel. And if you look, when you get the story stick, it comes around. I went 15 degrees. Why 15 degrees? Because it's pleasing to me. That's why. I started out at different degrees, and this is where I ended up. And it's stable, and I think it looks nice. The reason for this little clamp here is to keep it from rocking. So what I do is I take the line that I drew is now my sight line. So the center of my drill, as I look at it, will go down the sight line. My drill will be angled along my 15-degree bevel. So I just follow the blade. So I sight down the center, and I can see my line, and I make sure that my auger bit lines up. That. I do it 4 times. It really doesn't take very long. Get all 4 of my holes drilled. So what if I'm off, a degree or 2? Well, none of the kids that sit on these complain. And I'm not worried about tear out on the bottom. And you'll see why, because I'm going to turn that off. I've gone, the thickness of this is also 1.5 inches. And I only need 1 3/8 inches. So I've got that extra 1/8 of an inch for that blowout on the bottom. So, not super technical. I don't have a drill press in my shop, so that was kind of a necessity of invention. So I am done with my sliding bevel, and I found if I don't put this away, the edge is sharp. This bit me before. So now I want to mount it. Well, I can't mount it yet because I need a hole in the middle. And I have a Nova chuck here in my lathe. And And I found that a 5/16 bit works out the best. There we go. So I chucked up a 5/16 bit and I put a little piece of masking tape about 3/4 of an inch up, just to give me an idea of where to stop. I need a straight edge, so I'm going to use, this is going to be the button. I will turn a button. If you notice on the stool, there's just a button on the bottom. It's going to fit into this hole that I made, just a height. So I'll use that as a straight edge right now. And drill that out. So, now I'm going to mount it up here. And someone told me about this thing. It's kind of fancy. It's got a little stop here. Pretty nice. Okay, so I've got this on the middle pulley. My feed's turned all the way down. I always use my tailstock because I don't feel like having this fly off. So now, this is the bottom. My headstock end is the bottom of my seat. What I want to do is I want to create that scallop. So a little story about me. I went to a Windsor chair making class and I really enjoyed it. So I enjoyed the method of joinery, and I also liked the way the seat looks. And the seat scallops on a Windsor chair in the front. So I copied that onto my stool here. So I'm going to scallop from my leg line to this line right here, which is about 3/8 inch up. And this is 1 3/8 inches. So when I turn it on, I can now see that line. The only downside is I got to turn the wrong way, as in I'm right-handed and I need to turn left-handed with my bowl gouge. But I don't really have a choice on this small lathe, and it's easier than flipping it around back and forth several times. So I keep my tool rest low. I'm going to stand over here and instead of what I would normally prefer, I just go opposite. So with my tool rest low, I can still get a bevel rubbing cut. There we go. Can you move that this way just a little bit? All right. Okay, so I start out with small cuts, and I let my leg do the walking here. So I just put it up against my leg and let it walk in. Can you hear me? Okay. So now that I've brought it, I just want to try that again. There we go. See what it looks like. Okay. So I start out with some small cuts, and I let my leg do the walking here. So I just put it up against my leg and let it walk in. There we go. Can you hear me? Okay. So now that I've rocked it, I just want to get it smooth. Well, try that again. There we go. See what it looks like. If I did it right, it's smooth. There we go. Okay. So now I'm done with the bottom here. So I've gone from line to line, and now I got to get this thing off. So that requires me to take the entire thing off. And this is what I do at home with my Mini 2. Because I got to get my tool rest to the other side. And the only way I figured out how to do that is like this. So. If you have any questions, you got to yell them out though. I can't. Okay, so now that my scallop's done, what I want to do is I want to get down to this line here. So I've just got my tool rest square, and I'm just going to hog down that wood. I'm also going to go inside just a little bit, because if you notice, the inside of the seat kind of scoops down. Well, I've got plenty of room because my hole is only 3/4 of an inch or so, so I've got 3/4 of an inch to go. So I'll go down about 3/8 or so in the center, and then I'll come back and I'll round the top. So, and I can see the line, so it's just a matter of and you can hear the black hole there. So the steeper my angle, the better my cut. And I'm just going to take the edge off here. You got to make kind of lower cuts on these. You don't have the power of a large lathe. Okay. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off my tailstock. I'm going to get rid of the nub here and make a smoothing cut from about the center outside of my hole to the outside, and make that be my final cut, right? And we'll see. I may do 2 final cuts, depending on the quality of it. And then a final cut to the inside, and then I'm done with my seat. At that point, at home I'd sand it and finish it, and be done with my seat. And what I like to do is I like to make sure my tool rest, that the center of my tool is centered with the tailstock hole. To get rid of that. And so in order to better get this, I'm just going to put it at an angle here. And I like to rub my tool on this edge, because I found out the edge can be super sharp, and I found out the hard way. So now I can make my cut towards the center. And I'm going to start where just before I'm going to overlap these a little bit so it's smooth. And the harder I push on my tool rest, the more I can focus on gliding my bevel, because I don't want to push my bevel too hard into the wood, because if I do, I'll start getting a lot of chatter. So I'm going to make one more final cut here. And hopefully this will be the last final cut. Am I the only one that makes more than one final cut? Is that fairly common?
Welcome to the club.
All right, that's a little better.
Make one more for the camera.
Okay, what was that? On switch. All right, I'm done with the seat, so I'll hand this out. There you go, sir. So now I got to make the little button. As long as I got my chuck up here, I don't want to take it out yet, because I have use for it here. So this is a piece of alder. It's the same thing as the leg, except it's only, I think, 2.5 or something inches long. So all I need really is about an inch. Because it's spindle work, I'm going to raise my tool rest. What I do is I set this at the top, so I got my little house top here, and I just go slightly above. And make sure it's good and tight. So, now the button itself, what I need to do is just make something nice and kind of decorative on the top. And then the bottom itself, I need to make it a little bit concave so the outside rim fits neatly. Right? So as long as it's concave, I have got some forgiveness there, so I can push it down. So that's really all I need to do, and then make sure the actual tenon fits. Because if I make it too small, then I'll be making another one. So I'll turn this all the way up. I'm just going to peel cut so it's round. Smooth it so it's smooth. I got to smooth the end, so I'll give it a nice little chamfer there, and then clean up the end grain. And then give it some of those. So why do I do that? Well, in case there's some tear out, you won't see it because of the nice little detail. So I've got a parting tool, and then my calipers, I set this to my drill bit. So I just make sure that it can fit, and that it's just a hair bigger, because this alder wood is kind of soft, so I know I can, squeeze it in if it's just a hair bigger. If it's a hair too small, though, then I'm going to have issues. So what I do is I've made my little V cut right here, and so that gives me a line where I can push, and I can push, as you can see, towards the tailstock area, making that inside concave. So it's going to rest on that rim. And then my tenon will be roughly that long. I don't measure it. because it can't be over 3/4 of an inch. There we go. So that's my 5/16. And now, there it is. Should be long enough. All right. So who's got the seat? See if that fits. We got to test this first, because I might need to make another one.
Pretty much fit. Yes.
Okay, all right. So I don't need to make another one because I'd start running out of wood here. I know I should make it longer just in case. That is, well, that's the faceplate portion and the button. Any questions on the faceplate? Pretty simple, right? I mean, you scalp the bottom. I suppose if the wood was uneven, so I use surface lumber for the seat, and if it wasn't, then I'd take my hand plane, because I don't own a power planer, and I'd just plane it flat. You know, all I need is that big. And as long as that surface is pretty true, you know, the top, I don't care. I can turn that down. So
Rick, do you look for something close to like rift on when you look for those boards? Something that's not face, you know, the really plain solid boards, or do you care?
the ones that I've avoided have the pith, because, yeah, so if they've got the pith, I'll avoid it. If I could find quarter sawn, I'd snap it up. But I can't, so I believe it is that rift sawn. Yeah. That's how I found them. Even the larger, I'll use maple or alder. I'm going to avoid the pith on my seats, just because they're unstable. All right. So if there's no questions on that, pretty straightforward, right? So this is something when I thought about teaching that, we've had some classes on this with my club, and it's really been what can you do with a mini lathe, because people own mini lathes, and what's not terribly complex, but you look at it and you go, wow, and you break it down into a couple steps, and we found that even our beginners can make a nice stool. So that's been our goal. So for the legs, so the legs are obviously between centers and 12 inches apart. So I may need that little center that comes with this thing. That probably would have been a good idea to figure out before. So just for information, the new version of this is an inch longer. It actually matters. Oh, there we go. This one? The other one.
Do you want to dry?
That one, right there. Yep, perfect. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on track. Okay. So, I have taken these and both of these ones that I'm going to turn, I've just I found center on both ends, and that's just how I mount it. It is on centers. And I squeeze it up tight. I found that this longer tool rest is very helpful. And it's the one for the 1221. But it's very helpful. to have a longer tool rest, and I like my speed a little higher. So this is the 1700 to 39 speed. So I'll be cranking the speed up here to get it round. So to get it round first, I take my spindle roughing gouge, and I'm just going to make it round. And from round, I can do whatever design I want, which in this case, I'll be using this template. So start your speed low, and then crank it up. I found that out too. So I'm not sure how fast this is, but it's near the top. And so I'll just go back and forth. So I just want it round. And it's almost there. And the most important part about it being round is from about here. So here I know the bottom of my leg will be, so I can go ahead and already take it down a little bit since I already know that. And along here is my details. So I want to make sure those are nice and round. There's nothing worse than a bead with a little flap that you didn't want.